Hi everybody, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. I'm Monica Vallado, the director of the Stigler Center. We're happy to host Linor Deutsch for a two-day mini course on lobbying for the public. Thank you, Linor, for joining us. We're excited to host this event alongside the Rustandy Center for social sector innovation. As good social network hub, the Rustandy Center is the destination for people tackling complex social and environmental issues. The Rustandy Center offers hands-on learning opportunities, supports innovative courses, and pursues research, all with the goal of developing people and practices with the potential to solve the world's biggest problem. Before we start, please note, we are on the record and live streaming, so please silence your phones, but feel free to use social media. As usual, views expressed by our guests are their own, or those of the Stigler Center or the University of Chicago. As you may know, the Stigler Center promotes and diffuses research on regulatory capture and the various disclosures that special interest groups impose on capture. We have many programs and initiatives, including the podcast Capitalism, co-hosted by Kate Waldorf and Luis Gales, and our pro-market publication, so please check it out. We also are co-sponsoring an event here at noon on February 19th as part of the Navigating the Gray conference with whistleblower advocate Jordan Thomas. You can register for that event on the conference website. Back to this afternoon. We look forward to hearing Linor's insights. Before we begin, please allow me to briefly introduce our guest. Linor Deutsch is a CEO of Lobby99, an Israeli's first public lobbyist representing the public's interest in the Israeli parliament since 2015. After serving in the IDF's elite intelligence unit, she joined the Jewish agency, studied law and political science at Tel Aviv University, and passed the Israeli bar. During her 3 years as a parliamentarian assistant, she was involved in a variety of political and diplomatic activities and served as a Jewish diplomat to the World Jewish Congress. She was later appointed Vice President for Regulation and Government Affairs at the Israeli Farmers Federation. There, Linor saw firsthand how a small number of lobbyists yield influence on public representatives. This compelled her to become part of Lobby99, which is a first-of-a-kind organization that aims to represent the unrepresented 99%. She has received many accolades. She was selected 3 years in a row in the top 100 most influential people in Israel and was awarded the top activist of the year, among others. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Linor Deutsch.
Do you hear me well? Okay, good. So thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy and thrilled to be here. My name is Linor Deutsch. I'm the CEO of Lobby99, which is the world's first public lobby. And during the next 2 days, we'll discuss exactly what is it mean to be a public lobby, what is so unique about our model, what is so unique about what we do. We're going to do it today. We're going to talk about the challenges of the current environment, what is the situation today in politics, what laid the foundation to the establishment and the funding of Lobby99. Tomorrow, we're going to double-click on the model and discuss about what is exactly, how does the model work, how exactly do we work, what are our challenges, okay, and why do we think that Lobby99 is a solution for the problem, okay? So, but before we start, we just do a short background about Israel, because obviously it's not so you to understand where this initiative grew. So, Israel, and despite the fact you hear a lot about Israel all the time in the media, it's a very noisy country, we're actually pretty tiny, okay? Only 9 million people, okay? It's about the size, both of the population and the size, physical size of New Jersey, okay? Pretty tiny, right? So, matter of GDP per capita, a little bit economic facts. So Israel has 43K GDP per capita. As you can see, UK has 41, Germany has 47, US has 65. So we're in a good place. Those are the countries we relate to. the PPP, purchasing power parity, you can see that is 39K, which is unlike the other countries, which is, if you can see, UK 47, Germany 54, which is higher than the numbers of the GDP. In Israel, it's a little bit lower. And the reason it's lower is because Israel has an economic island. It has a very centralized economy, a lot of monopolies, okay, which means that we have a very high cost of living. Tel Aviv is one of the most expensive cities in the world. Wherever you watch the 10 top expensive cities, you see Tokyo, you see New York, then you see Tel Aviv. Despite the fact the salaries don't match that cost of living, okay? And that's the reason that I'm talking about it now is because this is part of the reasons that led to the establishment of the lobby, and we'll elaborate about it later. Another fun fact I'd have to say about Israel, that after North America, Israel has the highest VC dollars invested in tech in absolute terms, which means that after Silicon Valley, okay, Israel is the number 2 in the venture capital investment, okay, which is pretty a wow thing. We have a very big high-tech environment in Israel, and we're very proud of it, okay? So, another thing we have to understand about Israel, which is it's different, the parliamentary system is different from the state. The state has a presidential democracy, okay? The citizens elect the president directly. In Israel, the system is much more like in Britain and in Italy, which is a parliamentary democracy. What does it mean? You have multiple parties, okay? And the prime minister is the one who's managing the country, not the president. Much like in Britain, okay? Israel used to have an English mandate, okay? So the system is much like in England. It has a multiple partisan, and once after we have about 10 to 15 different parties, and the parties are making coalition, and the coalition with the prime minister is the one who's ruling in the government. Okay, so there's coalition and opposition. It's a little bit different than in the state, obviously, but that's the way the system works. The Israeli parliament is called the Knesset. The reason I tell you that is because obviously I will tend to use that term because I sometimes will say parliament, sometimes I will say Knesset. I want you to know what Knesset means. The name of the Israeli parliament is Knesset. The Knesset has 120 members of parliament, and I'll be using the phrase either MP, she's a member of parliament, or MK, member of Knesset. Okay, so I'll be using those terms. That's why it's important for me that you will know them. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Israel. Now we talk about a little bit about me. So I grew up in a small town in the south of Israel, very average middle-class family. My mom was a teacher. My dad was an economist in some middle-sized company. Very not connected. And despite the fact I had no one in my family that was in politics or in public service, I was very drawn to that area. I didn't know anyone who knew anyone who knew anyone who was in the area, but I was always very much interested in that field. After finishing the army in Israel, you have a mandatory army. After finishing the army, I went to study my first degree in law and political science at Tel Aviv University. Later on, I did my MA there in gender studies, which means I'm not only a feminist, I'm a certificate feminist, which is an honor. And when I finished the bar exams, and my dream was always to get to work in the Knesset, okay? And because I wanted to be a parliamentary assistant, you have to understand every Knesset member has about 2 assistants. Today it's changed since 3, but I'm talking 11 years ago. We had 2 assistants. The assistant's job was to draft the bills, prepare the materials to the work of the committees, to do the media coverage, okay? All the work regarding the work in the parliament was the job of the assistant. And my dream was to get to be a parliamentary assistant. Obviously, I was very, usually it's a world that's very hard to, a lot of people want to get to it, and it's very hard to get to it. And I had no idea how to do it. Making long story short, finishing my internship, passing the bar, I managed to get to an interview and to get accepted to work as a parliamentary assistant. Okay, now you have to understand, for me to get the first day at the Knesset, I was walking around the hall. I couldn't believe it's happening. It's living your dream, okay? It's a dream coming through. I was walking around the halls with the magical, everything looks so magical, everything looks so amazing to me. And I had to finish my You have to do all the, get your laptop, sign your forms, and all the technical things of getting into a new job. And then I have to actually start working. Now I'm talking about my first day at work, at the job, at the public sector, which I will never forget. And now you understand why, because it was the first time I was actually exposed to how things look behind the scenes. And this is the story, what happened. So I was finishing, getting the laptop, doing the forms, and then I had to actually start working. And I had this draft of the bill that I had to finish writing and to submit it, and I had no idea where to submit it. I had no idea how to do it. Nobody teaches you those stuff, so I didn't know how to do it. I went to a colleague, which was considered to be a senior colleague, very considered other parliamentary assistant. And I went to him and say, can you help me? Just explain to me how exactly am I doing it? And then he looks at me, and he gave me the talk of my life, okay? He looked at me and he told me, why are you, neshama, in Hebrew, it's like, my darling, why are you coming to me with this? You see all the people walking around with the orange tags? Later on we'll speak why they have orange tags. Those are the lobbyists. Everything you want to know, go ask them. They know everything. They've been here for ages. They know the system. They know the rules. They know what I need to do. I'm going to ask them. Go ask them. They will teach you everything. Not only that they will teach you everything, they will do the work for you. Why working hard? They will draft the bills for you. They won't only draft the bills for you, they will also make sure you have media coverage over it. Now I'm talking 2009, before the social media. Media coverage on mainstream media was the dream of every spokesperson in the Knesset, okay? They'll make sure they'll do the video coverage, they will do everything. Listen to me, it's Equal for Life. This is the best thing you can do for yourself. Besides, he tells me, you want to cooperate with them. Winking was originally in the talk, okay? I'm going to listen. You want to work with them. I was looking at him, naively asking, why? He told me, come on, you look like a smart girl. How long do you think you're going to work here in the Knesset? A year, 2 years, 3 years? You want to move on with your career? You want to get a better job? You want to get to work in one of the big corporates? You want to work with Facebook, on Google, on the big Bank of Israel? Okay, when they get paid well and you be in a higher position? Who do you think will make sure you will have an interview with the management? Who do you think will make sure you get into an interview and won't have your resume drawn in the papers? Those people are the ones working with the senior management like this, and if you'll be good to them, they'll be good to you. Look at the former parliamentary assistant. Look who succeeded, look who didn't. And you do the math where you want to be. First talk, okay? First date. I was like, this. Okay. So that was the beginning of my journey in the Knesset, which we started in state until now. But then it was as a parliamentary assistant, I can tell you that I very soon to understand that the ones who are running the business are not the Knesset members, but the lobbyists. Anyone seen House of Cards? House of Cards? Yeah. You recognize the character? Remy Danton. Okay, Remy Danton in the first few seasons was a very, very powerful lobbyist. Okay, so we keep saying lobbyist, but I want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what are we talking about. So if I would open a dictionary now, what would be written? What is a lobbyist? This is your part to answer. What is a lobbyist? Don't look on Google, just answer. If we open dictionary, what would be the definition? Shocking, okay, shocked, very shocked, okay, but yes.
Any individual or group that tries to influence in one way or another government decisions.
Almost perfect. What is missing? What is missing in the definition? Tiny thing?
For money.
Thank you. For money. Nobody's doing it just for fun. They're doing it for money. That's right. So here's the definition. I got it from the dictionary just for you. You're a person who is paid to take part in an organized attempt to influence legislators. Now in Israel, we said there are about 120 members of parliament, 250 registered lobbyists, okay? You don't have to be a math genius to do the ratio, okay? About 2 lobbyists on every parliament member. Okay, that's about the math, which is a lot. You agree with me, it's a lot? And if you want to go and be a lobbyist, what do you need to be a lobbyist? If now you want to go to be a lobbyist tomorrow, what do you need? What do you think are the qualifications you need to be a good lobbyist? Connections. Okay, what else? Anything else?
A lot of money backing it.
Okay, what else? Anything?
Charisma.
Charisma, that's true. What else?
Shameless ambition.
Okay. That's true as well. But what other thing do you need? If tomorrow, I'm sending you tomorrow to the parliament, okay? It doesn't matter. I'm talking here about the Knesset, but I want you to understand that the system works the same everywhere, okay? Even if the terms are different, the systems, or the how do you call it, the way they are doing it is the same everywhere, okay? So if I'm sending you tomorrow to the parliament, what do you have missing?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, thank you. Knowledge. You have to have knowledge. So the first thing you need is knowledge of how the system works. That's why usually lobbyists are people who used to work in the system, or parliamentary assistant, minister of advisors, minister advisors, former members of parliament, former ministers. Okay, people who work inside the system, understood and learned how it's working, and now they're taking their knowledge and renting it to somebody who's willing to pay. So that's the first thing you need. You don't have to be a genius for that. And you can purchase that, you can learn that, but it's something you need. Another thing you need is an expertise, okay? What do you mean expertise and knowledge? Whether you came from that specific field, if you came from the energy field, or from the banking system, okay? And you have that knowledge when you're going to talk to a parliament member and to explain to him, or whether you need to learn that, okay? And now I have a new client, I'm a lobbyist, I have a new client who's coming from the banking system. I need to learn the field in order for me, when I come to talk to them, okay? I need to have a specific lobbyist, okay? It's a specific knowledge, okay? I need a specific knowledge in order to teach him and explain to him, okay? So those two things are easy to learn, okay? Are possible to learn. It's not, you don't have to be a genius. The thing that is much harder to learn and get, even if possible, is personal connections, okay? And personal connections, you have to understand, that's the basic for all. So from those three, the list of those three, personal connections is the main qualification you need. Why? Because all the knowledge in the world will not help you if you make a phone call and the Knesset member won't answer. And all the knowledge in the world won't help if you knock the door, you won't open, and won't answer your email, okay? In the end, it's all personal. The fact that they know me and the fact that they know that specific lobbyist, they will answer the phone, they will answer the email, they will agree for a meeting. Think about yourself. Both all of you here in Booth, the best business school in the States, right? And you come here and you have the best lectures, and they're bringing you the best lecturers from all over the world, and flying people here. And so you come here and you learn so much, a lot of knowledge, which is extremely important. But in the end, all of you also know that the network that you require here is as important as much as the knowledge, because you know that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you can still call your class, somebody from your class, even if it's not your best friend. You were in the same class with him, and you know if you send him an email, or you make up that call, he will answer your email, or agree to a meeting, okay? Why? Because you're from the same class, the same network, because there is this personal connection. The chances he will agree a meeting with you is much higher than with anyone else. True? True, because everything is about the personal connections. Now, that I know from 11 years of being in the field. Luckily enough, when I prepared the presentation, I discovered there is academic research that talks about it, of your very own Professor Marianne Bertrand from Booth Professor, actually did a research that found that it's not just me saying, there are proof for that the personal connections are in the end the most important thing for a good lobbyist, okay? Because you have to understand, in the end, everybody are human. And human is about personal connections, it's about people talking to people, it's about people influencing people, okay? So, now you say, so why, if the Knesset members, if the parliament members know that the lobbyists have interests, why do they still cooperate with them, right? Why do we even talk to them, except for the personal connections? So, I do want to say something that today is not, it's always everybody has to say, oh, they're all corrupted. Everybody are corrupted. And I want to tell you, that's not true. After 11 years at the Israeli parliament, I can tell you, most Knesset members are not corrupted. Most Knesset members have good intentions. It's true. There are always some rotten apples in the bowl, always. But the majority, and through 11 years, in several elections, I saw a lot of them. Most of them are coming with good intentions, and they want to serve the public. then what happens in the process? In the process, you have to understand there is a huge knowledge gap. Why is there a huge knowledge gap? Because no MK, no Knesset member, is subject matter expert on everything. What does it mean? I can be a great Knesset member, and I came from the banking field, okay? And I know I came from the energy field. I know a lot about gas and about oil, but then I have to legislate about the banking reform, or then I have to legislate about handicapped, or then I have to legislate about the reform at the garage sale. I don't know. Okay? And there is not a chance in the world I can be an expert about all those subjects. Okay? It's impossible. So then I have a knowledge gap. And suddenly, a week or 2 or 3 before the discussion, coming to me a lobbyist, which is very, I most likely, I probably know him for a different role, and he's probably a very smart and eloquent and distinguished person, and he comes to me with data, and he says, listen, in a few weeks there is you have to legislate about the banking reform. The manager, the CEO of the biggest bank in Israel wants to sit with you, wants to explain to you the problem with this reform. As a Knesset member, I will not sit with the most important CEO in Israel, in the Israel banking system. Of course I will sit with him. And even if I start as and I'm a kid, I want to legislate in favor of Joe from Minneapolis and Rachel from Minnesota, okay? That's my goal, to help those people. But then I sit with the CEO of the big bank in Israel. And the CEO won't tell me about this law. He won't tell me, he will explain to me how bad it is. And he won't tell me that this law is bad because it will disturb him to buy another yacht. No. What he will tell me is, listen, this law is horrible. It's going to hurt the banking system. It's going to hurt the economy system in Israel. It's going to hurt the business sector. We have to fire employees. It won't benefit the public in the end, okay? And I will hear it from them, and then the other CEO of the other big bank in Israel will want to sit with me as well. And I will sit with him because he's a very important man, right? Of course I will sit with him. And then the third, there are only 5 big banks in Israel. All of them came to sit with me, and obviously I will sit with all of them. And then in the reform, the credit card company, the CEO also wants to sit with me, which is also a very distinguished person. I'll sit with him as well. And the other, Visa, MasterCard, Lumi card. By the end of those meetings, 8 meetings, of 8 very important, distinguished CEOs explaining to me how this reform is horrible and how this reform will affect and will hurt the public and will affect the business sector and blah, blah, blah. My head, which I knew nothing about banking before, and all the information I learned came from those people, I would probably finish my opinion here. And then I will sit in the discussion, in the committee, in the table. Who is sitting in the table? Joe from Minneapolis doesn't sit in the table. You know who sits in the table? The legal advisors of the banks. The CEOs, the VPs, the in-house legal advisors, and the outside lawyers, big shot lawyers, sitting there explaining to the every clause why it's bad for the public, why you have to change this clause, why this over and over again for hours. So by the end of this discussion, there is not a chance that the bill will be balanced. Think about it. It's like imagine you're in a trial, okay, and you're the judge in a trial. And you hear the prosecution, and the prosecution is very convincing, gives you a great speech, and then you have to rule. You have to give your rule. What about the defense? No defense. You have to rule according to prosecution. What are the chances for you not to rule in favor of the prosecution? This is how the system looks today, okay? Because the ones who have to make the decisions only hear the side of the interest group. The ones who are being represented are always the small interest group, no matter how small their interest is. Their voice is being heard. The dispersed public is not at the table. You don't hear them. You don't hear Rachel from Minneapolis who have to pay high commissions. You don't hear Joe from Minnesota who have to pay second mortgage and can't pay his debt. Okay, those voices are not at the table. Only the one with the interest who have the money are in the table. Okay, so and I'll give you an example about a true story that happened. That will explain, will show you that that these things actually happen. So what is this? What is this? Yellow reflective vest, okay? In Israel in 2006, they passed a bill saying that every citizen must have a yellow reflective vest in his car, otherwise it will be a criminal violation. Now we think, okay, there is a, why would the state create this bill? What would you thinking of? What? Why would you have this bill? The common sense, now don't look for a different answer. The common sense, what would it be? that the state is looking after me, right? That if I have a flat tire or if I got stuck in the road, when I get out of the car, I have to wear the vest so I won't get hit by another car. It makes sense, right? The state cares for me, just like a seatbelt. So they care for my security. So let's look on the behind the scenes of that bill. So where there is everybody knows 3M, a tiny small company, around $8 billion revenue a year. So 3M got stuck in her storage in Israel. 3M Israel got stuck with about 20 tons of microcharismatic material, this yellow material. There was supposed to be a big, to send all material to Africa, and it got canceled, and they got stuck with 20 tons in the Israel material, in the Israel storage. Thinking, what should we do with 20 tons of this material? And they heard there was a governmental tender for the safety cones. You know, the safety cones they put in the road, the yellow and the orange one. And they said, okay, let's apply for the tender. They went to one of the lobby firms and said, can you please help us win the tender? Now, the it's the second big firm in Israel, very big firm, of lobby firm, and the manager, the partner there looked at him and telling me, come on, why are you thinking so small? Let's say you win the tender, you lose 2 tons, you have 20. What would you do with the other 18? Let's think of something better. Okay, what do you have in mind? Let's have a bill saying every citizen in the country has to have a yellow reflective vest made out of your material. The people of the 3M Israel looked at him and saying, okay, let's say it's possible. This is a governmental tender. How do you make sure that we will win the tender and not cheaper Chinese companies? Don't worry. We make sure that in the criteria we'll have an EU standard. We have immediate supply criteria. You'll be the only company answering those criteria, and you will win the tender. Sounds great, huh? Shaking hands. Let's see if it works. Making long story short, but in 2006 they went to the Knesset. They showed they passed the bill. Okay, the bill passed. The tender was with EU standard, immediate supply. Surprisingly enough, 3M won the tender. Not only 3M finished the 20 tons, it had to order more from 3M America. And we are also one of the first countries in the OECD that passed that bill. And legislation, I don't know if you know, it's always relative. So once we did it, other countries started doing that as well, and 3M got another branch of an income. Now, all I'm telling you, is on video. Okay, what happened was, this is a very famous story in Israel, because we have a show called it's like 60 Minutes, only a different name, of investigating a reporter, and they actually videoed in the undercover camera, the video the lobbyist is telling that in the lobbyist course. Okay, so all of this story, all of I'm telling you, it's on video. You can watch it on Google if you understand Hebrew. But just to make sure that everything I'm telling you is true story. So. This, when you listen to that, then you would say, oh, but I can understand there is a public interest here, right? You can see the public interest. I can tell you that usually I give other examples, but you will hear the other examples in the next lesson, of, in the end, there are obvious examples of the ones who are against public interest, mostly in antitrust issues, in natural resource issues, when you can see that the legislator is promoting something which is against the public interest because of the interest group that is influencing them, and I will give you a specific example tomorrow on our examples for the lobby board. Okay. So in that story, I always love to use the quote of Bismarck: "Laws are like sausages. You never want to know how they're being made." And it's funny, but it's sad. Okay. And why? Now this is a question to you. Why is there no one representing the public interest in the parliament? Why don't we hear Joe from Minnesota or Rachel from Minneapolis in the Knesset? Why?
Because the members of the parliament are supposed to represent them and their interests.
Okay, that's true. But also, lobbyists in the end, the influence. Why don't Joe go influence on the Knesset member? Why don't Joe go talk to the Knesset member? This is what we call the collective action problem. Okay, you probably know it. You probably learned it. The collective action problem is very famous in game theory, how do you call it? Game theory. In the game theory, very no economic, the individual don't have the incentive to take action, even though it is clear they will be collectively better by taking the action. Joe from Minneapolis and Rachel from Minnesota want to pay money and influence their and use their time and money for something that will benefit them, but will also benefit everyone else, and they're not sure it's worth it. Okay? And Joe from Minneapolis and Rachel don't know each other, so they cannot unite on that issue. And this problem, Lobby99 is coming to solve. Okay? And we'll elaborate later how we solve it. But before we were going to elaborate on how we solve it, I want to give the background, okay, of how did it come to be that Israel, how do we fund this initiative, and what was the background in Israel that happened in order to have possible that Lobby99 was established. So in 2011, there was a huge social protest in Israel. Here it says in Hebrew that the people want social justice. Okay, what happened in 2011? There was huge, 500,000 people, which is, think about it, out of 9 million population, it's a lot of people, went out to the street protesting against the cost of living. Remember I told you that Israel has a very high cost of living? People were fed up not being able to pay their rent or buying apartments or paying in the supermarket, and went out to the street, hundreds of thousands of people against the cost of living. Now, we're talking about a social protest that continued for months, and the media coverage was huge. All they ever talked, everyone talked for months only on this issue. There was no other issue. That was the issue controlling the Israel media. Okay. Now you have to understand this happened together with the rise of the social media. 2011, Facebook became very strong. Twitter, Instagram, the companies. It was the fuel to the social protest. Okay. Suddenly people could talk to each other. They talked to each other directly. So it was the fuel to the social protest, and that led to the birth of a new term, public interest. Suddenly, everybody were discussing what is the public interest. Now, I was a parliamentary assistant those days, so I was in the parliament, and I could actually see the difference because suddenly, you know, if before 2011 nobody talked about the public interest, nobody cared about the public interest, suddenly everybody, all the Knesset members, everybody talked about the public interest. What is the public interest? In 2012, a year after there were elections in Israel, and half of the Knesset members, 55 Knesset members, came new ones, okay, that came on the waves of the social protest, and they all came with that new term of public interest. Okay? And suddenly everybody was talking about the public interest and what would be good for the public, and that was a new vibe in the Israeli system. So that was that laid the foundation to Lobby99. What was the trigger? The trigger happened actually with natural resources. In 2014, they found a huge they found a lot of gas in Israel.
Deposits.
How? Deposits, yeah. Okay, they found huge gas.
Gas reserves.
Reserves. Thank you. So they found huge gas reserves in Israel in 2014, and then for the next year, it became a huge public debate about the royalties. Okay, how much will the public get from the royalties, and how much will the tycoon and the gas monopoly, the gas companies, will get from that reserves? And there was a huge public debate, and people went out demonstrating because by the contract that the government did with the tycoon, the public didn't get much. Okay, despite the fact it is natural resources, it's supposed to belong to everyone, and for some reason the tycoons and the gas companies get the most, and the public gets a tiny size. So there was a big debate about it, and in the middle of this debate in 2015, in the middle of that, this guy, which was the main reporter of the two news channels, one of the main two news channels, he was the parliamentary reporter, okay, which means he's the one sitting in the Knesset, talking with all the Knesset members, knowing all the ministers, very connected, everybody knows him, and in the middle of this mess, he quit and moved to be an inside lobbyist of the tycoon and the gas monopoly, okay? In the middle of everything. Now it's legal, but you have to understand that for the people involved, it gave a stomachache, okay? Because he took all of his connections, all of his knowledge, all the people he knows, and took them and gave them to the tycoon that currently the public is fighting. So that created a lot of frustration in people involved in the political system, including myself. I wrote a big post about it, never mind. And then that was the trigger for my co-founder, for Yaya. That gave him the trigger. What if there would be someone who is doing that in favor of the general public? Okay, what if there would be someone who do the same thing that the lobbyists do, only in favor of the dispersed public, who don't work together? What a great idea, huh? Nice idea, but how can you actually do it? So, in that point, he approached me. We didn't know each other. We were the same brancha, same. He was also a parliamentary assistant. We were the same people, but I knew his name, but we didn't know each other in person. And we got somebody connected us, and then he said, "Come co-found with me. Come be the first public lobbyist." Okay. And that idea, you have to understand, was hectic at that time because lobbyist is yes. I don't know how to say it, better in English, but you understand, yes. It's a lobbyist. I want to be a lobbyist. But then, no, it's going to be unique. Now we checked, there was no other model like this in the world, okay? There was no such thing as public lobbyists, okay? And it was very unique, and we have to understand, we have to sit down and build it, okay, how it's going to work. So I translated the logo for you. It's usually in Hebrew. We created Lobby99, okay? Why 99? The 99%, right? The 99% as opposed to the 1%. And when we established, we have to define several principles, okay? So this is Yaya, by the way. That's one of the first articles they made. So the principles we had to define was this. First of all, non-political topics, cross-partisan. What do I mean? In Israel, there are two very big issues. Around them, there is no consensus. Both the security issue, which is the Palestinian conflict, and state and religion issue. It's very different from the state. I won't get into it, but those two issues, totally unconsensus. People, you can't get 4 Israelis in a room without them killing each other over those issues, okay? And probably one of them will kill one of the other one's mother, because it's very, very, very intense subjects. But if you get those two issues out of the equation, on the social economic issues, everything regarding the interests of the dispersed public against the tycoons, which is the banks, the insurance companies, the natural resources, the banking system, a lot of issues where there are huge consensus, and still people are not cooperating because of the higher, bigger, disagreements. Okay, the Maslow pyramid, if you know what I mean. Yeah? Because of that, nobody is cooperating on the social economic issues. So we said once we're taking them out of the equations and we do only social economic issues, suddenly you can do big cooperations between both sides of the party. You can go take coalition, take opposition, and make people work together, because on that subject, they are subject to a consensus, and still they're not cooperating on it. Why? So we defined we only do social economic. That gave us the option to work with all parties of the house. Okay. And the second thing we established is that we're one tangible impact. What does it mean? We don't care about getting another headline in the media and have nothing came out of it. Okay, we want to see an impact, a real impact. That means we're practical. That means we'll always prefer a bill passing with 50% of what we wanted, and not a bill which is 100% but staying on the shelf. Okay, always practical. Always have a bird in the hand and not 2 in the bush. Okay, so that is an attitude that is not a non-profit or NGOs usually are less, more ideological and less practical, and we said no. Ideology is important. We want results, okay? We want to be practical. We want tangible impact. So that was our second principle. The third one was transparency, okay? We said we don't want just to have transparency to promote agenda of transparency. We'll also be transparent ourselves, which means we update weekly on what's happening, and we don't sugarcoat the update, okay? Update is an update, what's going on, what's working, what's not working. Everything is transparent. Our salaries, you can go into our website right now and see the budget and how much each of one of us is earning, and how much we are paying for the office, and how much we are paying for PR. Okay, everything is transparent. Okay, so that is the third principle. And the fourth one, which is also one of the most important, and from that we'll elaborate tomorrow. Now we'll say it in a word: crowdfunding only. Okay, that the only ones who will pay for this initiative will be the dispersed public. We will not take money from big donation. We will not take money from the big donors. We only want small donations from the dispersed public. And on that's a huge issue. We'll elaborate tomorrow when we talk about the model, okay, and how the model is working. But I want to end up with a story of success, so you understand also how the lobby works and how an example of success that one of our first successes. When we started, our first base of the money was from a Head Start. Okay, you know what's Head Start? At Kickstart, you have a crowdfunding website. You go to the public saying, "Give me money." And in Israel, so we have a website like that, and we managed to get money for a pilot. Pilot of, we thought we wanted X, a certain amount. We got twice as much the amount for this idea, and we had money for 4 months pilot. Okay, and when we started the pilot, we went to 1,000 people who gave the money and told them, okay, we're going to do a pilot. What are the subjects that are important for you that we'll promote? Okay, we don't want to decide for you. Tell us what is important for you under the criteria of social economic issue. And they chose 3 subjects. They chose increasing transparency. They chose reforming the banking system, and they chose royalties from natural resources. And each of those subjects, I will give you an example both today and tomorrow of successes that we had. And the first example I'll give you is from increasing transparency. Okay, obviously it's a huge subject. We did a lot of things about it, but I want to give you one specific example. Because we are called Lobby99, obviously we want to do something about lobbyists, right? It's kind of obvious, but you have to understand. You remember I told you that those people who were wearing, the lobbyists are wearing orange tags. So you have to understand, until 2008, there was no regulation in Israel on lobbyists, despite the fact despite the fact that lobbyists worked since the late 80s. Until 2008, there was no bill regarding that. In 2008, there was a cooperation from both sides of the House, coalition and opposition, to pass a bill called the Lobbyist Act, which forced them to register in Parliament and to wear orange tags that recognize them as lobbyists, okay? Those are the 2 main two restrictions that they had. Since then, there have been multiple tries to have other restrictions added to it. All of them failed. Why did they fail? Lobbyists, right? The lobbyists failed them. So you have to understand that until 2015, when we came, there were about 15 different bills, all failing. Okay? Nobody managed to pass more restrictions on the lobbyists. Okay? Then what happened in 2015? We came. Oh, sorry. And what we defined, we said, I don't want a big amendment, I want a small amendment. I want to make sure that the lobbyists have to register in the protocol of the committees and write who they represent. And I will explain. You have to understand that the Knesset, you have the plenum, where all the Knesset members come to vote in the end. But all the legislative work are in the committees. You have 15 different committees. You have the healthcare committee, the finance committee, the economic committee, and every bill, according to its subject, is going to be, the legislation work is inside that specific committee, okay? And in those committees, where all the, they go through different clauses, they go to all the real legislative work, it's supposed to be transparent. It's supposed to be, this is how a committee looks like, this is a committee room. Think about that you have a protocol in the end, and everything is supposed to be a protocol, right? Well, no. What was before our amendment, that the protocol was only of the people sitting in the table, okay? These people who were talking to the protocol. All of the back row, which is where the lobbyists are sitting, is not a protocol. Now, why do I care what lobbyists were sitting in the room? Why? Why do I care what lobbyists are sitting in the room? Yeah?
They're going to push for different interests.
That's right, different interests. Because now I'll give you a true story of something that happened, what gave me the idea for this bill, for this amendment. In my former work, after I was a parliamentary assistant, I was a legal advisor for Farmers Federation of Israel, never mind, doesn't matter the details. And one day I was ordered to a discussion in the committee about the agriculture thing, about farmers in the desert. Nobody cared about, okay? Farms in the Negev, no corporate interest you can imagine, okay? It's a subject without no money. And I'm getting to the discussion, and I see 5 different lobbyists sitting behind me. Now I know the lobbyists, because I know them personally. Obviously, one of them was a parliamentary assistant with me, the other I know father, I know them. But each one of them is representing about 400 customers, so I don't know why are they sitting there. And I'm thinking, why are they here? I mean, what money is involved in agriculture in the desert? Okay, it was farms in it, and I couldn't understand. And then during the discussion, I overheard them speak. And Then I realized that the one who was sitting was actually the lobbyist of the cellular phone companies. And imagine like a discussion like the lobbyist of like if you will be in the state AT&T or T-Mobile, okay, are sitting in a discussion, and then I realized I heard them talking, and they were actually talking about cellular tower, okay. Now you open the protocol, you open the bill, nowhere you will see cellular tower, okay, nothing. You will see farms at the desert, but the corporate interest behind that bill, promoting that bill was cellular towers interest, okay? Was the cellular company interest. Now that happens in the Knesset every day. That's one thing. Think about the yellow vest example that I gave you. It looks like something in favor of the public, but in the end it was a corporate interest that we didn't know about. It happens in the Knesset every day in different discussions. One thing looks as a public interest or looks something in one hat, and in the end, behind the scene, it is something completely different. Now, what I wanted by doing this amendment is making sure the lobbyists will have to register the protocol so I can open any discussion there is and see who sat there and who sent lobbyists. Because when lobbyists sit in a discussion, it means somebody paid for them to sit there, okay? It means Facebook sent the lobbyists. It means Google sent the lobbyists. It means the big banks sent the lobbyists. It means T-Mobile sent the lobbyists. And if they send the lobbyists and they're paying for his time, they probably have a specific interest in this bill. And I want to know it. I want to know it, so as a citizen I will know it. I want to know that the Knesset members will know it. I want that some kind of investigatory report that can open it later on and find something we didn't see. I want it to be legal evidence in a court that might be, in the trials that might be about corruption that we'll find out in 10 years. I want to have this information. Now I expect all of that to the Knesset members that I went to, because when you have to, I'm not a parliament member, I cannot pass the bill myself. So what you have to do is do a strategy for lobby, which means you sit in front of the paper of all the Knesset members, and you see who's the one who can promote this bill. Who is the one who's sitting in the right position to help me pass this bill? And then I'm going to him, and I'm explaining to him what I explained to you. And say, come pass that bill, come lead the initiative of this bill. I'll make sure you have a majority, I'll bring the majority, but come be the leader of that. And he agreed. And then you go and you lobby with the other Knesset members to make sure you will have a majority, to make sure we'll have, and then inside the committee, you have to understand that the bill in Israel, you pass a bill in 3 different readings. You don't pass it one time. You have the reading, go into the plenum, and then you go into the discussion in the committee. Comes back to the plenum, another reading, going back to the committee. Only in the 3rd time it passes the bill. So inside the committees, in the discussion, you make sure other Knesset members will come. And this small amendment that we started after passing second reading, we had some extra clauses entered, and during a cooling period for parliamentary assistance, and et cetera, and this small amendment became 12 articles amendment. And the bill managed to pass 3 readings in a month. So you have to understand it was unbelievable, because usually it takes about between a year to 2 years to pass the bill. We passed it in a month. Nobody believed. Now the fact that it was so fast was the reason we managed to pass it, because the lobbyists didn't have time to resist it. It was all so fast. It happened so fast. Nobody believed that it's happening. And once this bill has passed, I became lobby enemy number 1. From that moment, I was walking in the halls of the Knesset. People who knew me for 10 years just stopped talking to me, didn't even say hi. I was sitting, you have to imagine lunch in the Knesset cafeteria. It was like you see in the high school movies. I was sitting at the table and everybody was getting up. Seriously, we were laughing. It wasn't funny. It was actually pretty sad. No, but luckily for me, I had a lot of support from the outside. But inside, in the everyday Knesset, it wasn't pleasant at all. But that was the first success that helped us establish and have, after we finished the pilot, and after help us to move to be a regular-based crowdfunding organization. That's how we showed a big success that nobody managed to do it before, in order to persuade people to join us in a regular monthly subscription. And on that we'll elaborate tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to explain to you about how the model works. I'm going to give you extra examples for successes. I'm going to give you our challenges, because nothing is perfect, not even us. And then I'll give you our vision, but all of that will be tomorrow. But now I'm opening for questions exactly on time. Yes. Yes.
You talk about public interest,
yes,
but you're only defending those.
Okay.
You talk about you're talking about public interest, but in fact you're representing only those that are giving you funding to the platform.
Good question. I'll explain. It's true that the one who are giving us the money are the one who are voting on the subjects. I'll explain about that tomorrow. But they are the one choosing the subjects. That's true. But in the end, our agenda, and it's in our protocol, it's in our handbook. I don't know the handbook. Is that we present the interests of the common man. Okay, we come to present the interests of the dispersed public. Okay, so always when you have to choose between what will serve the interest of the common man in every subject, okay? Now, if there's something we are not sure about, and we are not absolutely sure what is the public interest in that matter, we won't get into those issues. We choose our subjects, okay, according to what we think is an absolute consensus in that matter, or at least majority of consensus. We have a lot of research. We don't just choose. We do a lot of research. We check what happens in other countries. We advise the biggest expert in the field. Only then we decide what is the right thing to do, and then we obviously tell it to all of our members. Okay, everything is transparent in that matter. Yes.
So it seems like Lobby99 and Occupy Wall Street are representing the same 99%. And Occupy Wall Street seems to want to disrupt the game, and it seems like Lobby99 wants to beat them at their own game. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about that distinction.
It's a very interesting distinction. Actually, it's true that what we said we were doing is using the game, how do you call it in English? How do we play the game and win the tycoons or win the 1% in their own field, okay? And that is something that it's exactly in Hebrew we have a phrase that you remember I told you the video that they pictured the lobbyists, and there he said we are the dash between the money and the power, okay? And what we said, we are going to be the dash between the people and the power, okay? So in that matter, we are using their tools in order to, and that's something they're not used to it. They're extremely are not used to it. Tomorrow I'll give you even extra examples of the things we do and huge lawsuit we did from crowdfunding. I'll explain to you tomorrow. And I can tell you from experience, they're very much, they don't know how to deal with us. We're not playing, we're not playing the game. The biggest compliment I ever got was after a discussion that I went out to discussion, and the lobbyist told me, discussion in the Knesset, in one of the Knesset committees, and the lobbyist told me that the CEO of the corporate company told him, "Who is this crazy lady, and who am I calling to shut her up?" and the fact you have, okay, I said, great, call 6,000 of our members, tell them, you can't shut me up. That's great, all of them will write their donation. The fact they have no one to call to, the fact in one side we are playing the game, on the other side we're breaking the rules because we are playing in their own game, but they cannot play the old game of making a phone call and make us shut up. They cannot stop us because okay, so they don't give us media cover, right? Okay, we have the social media, we have the face-to-face meetings that I would elaborate on tomorrow, all the ways that we work. So the fact that they can't control it drives me insane. Okay, so. And that, I'll give you extra examples tomorrow. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
So I'm curious to hear what the relationship that you guys have with the MKs and how that's developed, because it seems like you're pissing off a lot of their friends, but you're also are representing a lot of their base and sort of firing up their base about things that their base cares about. So I'm curious what their reaction to is then.
So it's a great question. I have to tell you that in the beginning it was harder because they looked at us with suspicious. What is it you represent? What is exactly? And very fast we gave them something they needed. We gave them the knowledge, and we gave them objective knowledge. So we helped them do their job, and we gave them good publicity on doing their job. Whether it was media coverage, every time we had a success, we always make sure that that our spokesperson is always making sure. First of all, you have a picture of the MK, you have his quote, and if there is a place, there will also be referring to Lobby 9, and if there is not, it's more important that the MK will get the good media coverage. And on social media, we'll make a huge post with this picture doing this MK just served the public and did 1, 2, 3, okay? So we did for them two main things. We gave them the knowledge, we helped them in the discussions, we helped them do their job, we gave them achievements to show to their elections, to their electors, and we gave them good coverage that for objective organization, which is something they want. So very fast, it became from starting me going after MKs, that MKs are coming after me, including phone calls that I got over. Do you have a paper about tech, blah blah? Do you have a paper? And then I'll tell you to more elaborate about more examples. That it started with MK, then it moved to regulators in government calling us for help to pass amendments or bills in favor of the public against so that we help them work against the commercial lobbyists. Now have several examples like that you will hear tomorrow. So in that matter, we became very fast. I mean, we only exist for 4.5 years, and I have no complaints over the recognition that we got. We became a very important player very fast in the field because we walked into a vacuum. Okay, our servers are needed. And that is something that you cannot ignore. I wish it wouldn't. I wish you didn't need us. But the fact is that it is extremely needed and it's working. Okay, more questions? Yes?
So based on how your model works, where you have people contributing to the organization and then voting, it sounds a lot like a democracy. And what I actually wonder about is how, in terms of the system and the incentives, like how does this systematically differ from the government? Because ideally, this is how you want the government to function, right? Like you have a representative, you vote, raise issues you find important, and execute.
Okay, so that's a good question. I'm actually elaborating on that tomorrow, but I'll give you a short spoiler. We call it Democracy 2.0. Okay, we are the #1 participatory initiative. I mean, I think what we have today, the model is the next generation of democracy. Okay, today what we're having is democracy is not just going to elect president or elect the prime minister once in 4 years. Democracy is influencing your life and your everyday life. Okay, what happens today is that the dispersed public is not influencing everyday life, and the interest groups do influence their life every day. Okay, so what we do, we take the democracy to the next level and we tell them, come influence your everyday life. Okay, come make sure that the system is balanced, come make sure that we're leveling the field, and in that matter, and we are helping the government doing something that sometimes doesn't know how to do. Otherwise, also, I have to say, sometimes we are fighting the government against other, I mean, we can agree with one thing, and we can fight another, so it depends what is the issue and what is specifically happening. But what we're saying, we're giving our members, we're giving the citizens an option to have a direct influence on what's happening and to have the much higher involvement. We're making them better citizens. They're becoming better citizens by taking a bigger part of their democracy, and that is something obviously they want and need, because look of how tomorrow we'll talk about the numbers of the members we have and the fact of how many thousands of people giving every month money. And you have to understand, in Israel, I don't know how, it's not in the state that people are used to give donations. Israelis do not like donations, okay? I'm sorry if it sounds, I mean, especially not a monthly donation. I mean, if it's one time, it's like bachelors. It's telling bachelors. If it's one time, they can do without the commitment. But monthly commitment, Israelis don't like it. So the fact that we managed to get so many thousands of Israelis to give monthly donations, it means something is working, okay? They wanted this involvement. They want to get better influence on what's happening in their everyday life. They are sick of the situation. More questions? Yes?
How do you figure out what the purposes are behind legislative proposals that might not be in the public interest?
So every time there is a bill, offering, for example, the government, there's this website when the government is sending a new bill every time. Now we have all of the workers in Lobby99 are all lawyers and economists, and we have research department. We are also advising the best economists and lawyers in Israel that help us. The ones who are in the good side, yes. And every bill that is relevant to the subject that our friends chose, okay, the members, not friends, every subject that revolves the members chose, we see whether it influence, how does it influence, does it influence well, does it influence, this clause is good, this article is bad, we want to get this one out, we want to add this. And we are doing the regulated work This is what I've been doing for, 11 years of my life. That's what I'm doing, drafting bills and see what clauses and articles needed to change. Tomorrow you will actually see an example. I will show you a short video from a discussion in the Knesset to see in live. You will see it in live of how I recognize, an article that is not in the public's favor, and pointing it out to a Knesset member and pulling it out. Okay. Sometimes all you need is the professional eye to help those MKs to do the work, because it's impossible for them to deal with all the materials. It's impossible for them to understand about all issues. And like the lobbyists, the corporate lobbyists help them to do it in favor of this interest group and corporate interest. We're doing the same in favor of the general dispersed public. More questions? That's it? Yes, one last one? Okay.
Is there an issue with people that don't even have access to crowdfunding or on the internet? Or is there a group? I imagine in some countries there are large groups of people that wouldn't even have access to crowdsourcing.
So we'll discuss tomorrow about our model, but I can tell you we have no minimum, which means we have members in shekel a month, which is less than $1. Okay. So we have members in less than $1. If you're asking me if there are people without credit cards or without a banking account, they can join the lobby, the answer is no. They have to have a bank account or a credit card, one of the two. So of course, they're always the one. Most people in Israel, I think 98, I don't know, very high percentage of the citizen population have bank accounts because they need the bank accounts. But there is no minimum, and we have people in so much as $1 a month. And their voice equals to the ones who are giving $200 a month, okay? That's because what we're saying is the participation that's important, and your voice matters, and not how much money you have, because that's exactly what we are fighting. The fact that the ones who have more money are more influencing the democracy. This is exactly what we want to change. So we're giving everyone the access to become lobby members. Okay? Oh, okay, one last question.
Yeah. Have you also experienced corporations trying to mobilize people to join your organizations and to then represent the corporate?
Can you repeat it slowly and strongly?
Yes. I was wondering, because in the way your system works, essentially people have a voice and people will contribute to your organization. You also experienced that corporations, for example, try to mobilize their employees to contribute to your organization and then represent their interests?
I like the way you think. Very interesting question. The answer is that we do have members of the lobby that are lobbyists. Yes, we do. We also have, we are aware of the fact that every newsletter or every material that we have, that the other side is reading it. More than that, I can tell you, I can send a tweet, and I get a tweet on Twitter, and I haven't even pressed the send yet, and I get an SMS from the CEO of one of the big lobby firms saying, "Oh, the number is not true. It's not 3, it's 5." And I'm like, I haven't even sent the send yet. Okay, so they're very much alert to everything we do. But even if the people always ask me, I do it a lot of town halls, a lot of face-to-face meetings. I'll elaborate on that tomorrow. But people always ask, what if one of the big tycoons will get 100 people as members, we get 1,000 people as members? And first I would say it's not that easy. Everyone has to join with a credit card number, with an ID. You cannot just have fake people. But let's say he has, let's say you have 100 people, let's say 1,000 people. It still cannot change the way our system, we build the system, we'll elaborate on that tomorrow. The topics are being added to one another. You cannot cancel the fact that the banking is being selected. You cannot cancel the fact that the gas is being, so it's too late. That's one thing. Second, you can only, our criteria deals with, we will always take, with every subject we'll promote. It's a democracy, but it's a limited democracy. I will never promote something in favor of the big corporate, or which is against the common man. If it comes out that there is, for example, when we promoted the reform in banking system, it actually helped small fintech companies. Okay, so we didn't work with them, but they enjoyed the reform. That's fine. Okay, that's great. It's good for the economy. But I will not actually, even if all the members, we won't even give the option, but remember, we cannot choose, oh, I want you to promote the big bank interest. It's impossible, okay? It's not in the system, you cannot do it. It's not the option you even give. So even if they get 1,000 people, it's still what they get in the vote in the end, so we'll have to choose between, let's say, public transportation, reform in the banking system, helping small business, new energy, okay? And so The most they can do is to change from one subject to another if they'll have tons and tons of people. The more we are, the smaller chances they'll succeed because they need a lot of people. And even if they did, still the subject we promote will still be in favor of the public, so the damage will not be that big. Anyway, I still think they don't need us, okay? The tycoons, that's the problem. They just make the phone call to the Prime Minister. They make the phone call to the Minister of the Treasury. They don't need Lobby99, okay? So that's one of the problems. That's exactly what we're fighting for. So let's say the day they do it, I know that we did very well, okay? Okay, are we good?
Thank you.
See you all tomorrow.